That's good.
That's fabulous. We've heard the genetic modification through human history from everyone before. It's a fabulous point to make. I think
it's a great point.
But you're the first who's mentioned genetic modification versus genetic engineering.
Yeah,
So I think I'll make the according changes on my research poster.
I guess the one last question that I have that's kind of paramount to me after that is, where does that put you as a biologist, as a biotechnician, I guess if that's the term, I don't know. But where does that put you between kind of the system of knowledge, this science, and then this capitalist socioeconomic entity that's kind of driving this whole kind of new dynamic?
Well, it puts me on the periphery, I suppose, of research, especially in the Western world, in my own country, the United Kingdom, and in the United States. But it's not anything that really bothers me or has affected me. When I came to George Washington, which was years ago, more years than I care to remember now, probably about 20 years ago, I really couldn't work with plants. And by that time I had become a little bit disaffected with the genetic engineering of plants. Out in Iowa, you're in a farming community, and when I was there, which was from the early 80s to the late 80s, I saw the effects of the farm crisis, which were very, very distressing indeed. I'm a city boy, I come from South London, so don't see too much green still in South London. So when I got to Iowa, it was a little bit overwhelming. I didn't realise there was that much sky, or that much corn, or that much soybean. But the people and because I worked for, it's a land grant university, so state university, so I had to go do a little bit of PR work around the communities, talk to farmers and so forth, and because essentially they paid my wages, so so I was going there as good publicity for the university, and also to tell farmers what their tax money was doing, and they were just fabulous. The Midwestern farmer was, they were so friendly, and they were of course interested in what I was doing, and they wanted to know what benefits my work was doing, and I really couldn't say that it would do them any good at all, because the farm crisis was a socio-economic matter once again, with the rise in interest rates, especially after the transition from the Carter administration to the Reagan administration, then the deregulation of the banks. We were having mortgage rates of anywhere between 20% to over 100%, and they just couldn't make the payments. And so they went out of business. There was suicides, there was spousal abuse, all of the the factors which indicate that there is a social dislocation in the Midwest. And like any other scientist, when I go into work like this, always at the forefront of my mind is I want to do good. Okay, this you become a doctor. Maybe what you want to do something which is socially beneficial, socially useful, and so forth. And really, I couldn't see that I was doing anything. This was a time where universities were transitioning as well, from academic institutions to business institutions, and so the ethic of business ruled over the free thought and expression that I associate, being an old fella, with academia. So I got out, came here, didn't do plants anymore. Worked a bit with biofuels, and then mostly got into teaching and working with undergraduate students, looking at the Anacostia River, and that to me is satisfying.
Yeah.
Still puts me on the periphery, of course, but I'm happy. I got tenure. What can they do to me? Eh?
Do you have any more questions?
Off the top of my head, that was really great.
I think you nailed it. I think you're amazing.
Okay. I'll send you those slides. I Okay. All of them, you can just, discard them or what. They're all.
And we won't discard them. No.
So you can take a look through.
Exactly.
I got a couple of interesting quotes you might find on some of them. One of the authors who's influenced me over the years is the Indian economist Amartya Sen, who made that famous quotation that starvation or hunger is not about there being enough food, it's just access to food. That to me is the basis from where to start when you look at the application of different biotechnologies to nutrition. Something else you might find interesting on there is the Cuban experience. Cuba has adopted a system of agriculture called agroecology, which is more environmentally based. It's biotechnology, it's utilization of biological principles and practice for particular applications to production of food. And it's been a partial success. So much so that recently the Special Raconteur to Agriculture at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has said, this is the way to go. This is how you feed the global south. It's through a system of agroecology, which encourages the growth of all kinds of plants and completely rejects the use of genetically engineered ones, at least for the time being, unless we can get something beneficial into them, apart from herbicide resistance and the like.
I actually do have a question now. Can you give us a brief overview of how biotechnology and genetic engineering is being used? Because I know there's food, perhaps medicine. I mean...
Yeah, a lot... I'm not... some specific applications I'm not aware of anymore because I'm out of the field. And sometimes it's very difficult to get hold of this knowledge because unlike working with animals and humans, a lot of that research is in the public domain. A lot of the research on plants is being done by private industry, and so of course that they are eager to protect their so-called intellectual property rights, and so some research I don't know about, and others are just the barest idea. If you look at the scale of genetically engineered plants, however, which are used in this country, in Canada, throughout the Americas, in fact, mostly they just concern what are known as the Big Four, which are the big cash crops of maize, soybean, cotton, and let's see, maize, soybean, cotton, and canola, or rapeseed. And the traits which are engineered are very, very few and far between. They're either herbicide resistant, or they're pesticide resistant, or they're what's called stack traits, which is a combination of both herbicide resistance and pesticide resistance. And then you have other applications like the flavor saver tomato, which has a longer shelf life. You have the golden rice. I'm not sure to what extent, however, that's in production. And then a few other bits and bobs as well. But really, there are very, very few traits, very, very few plants are actually used for commercialization following genetic manipulation by gene cloning. It's not to say that these things are out there and they're being developed. You see, the big problem is it's very, very limited at the moment because those qualities of plants which are most valued by the farmer and the plant breeder, like sturdiness, the composition of the seed, the clustering of the seed on the seed head. All of these are polygenic, which means that they're controlled by dozens, perhaps even hundreds of genes.